Look closely at a massive galaxy cluster, and then zoom down into the microscopic rhythmic pulsing of a biological cell. You are not looking at isolated, independent objects. You are watching a single, recursive geometric event occurring across all scales of reality simultaneously. Right now, the standard model of modern cosmology is fractured by an anomaly known as the Hubble tension. When astrophysicists measure the expansion rate of the early universe using background radiation, they get a value around 67 kilometers per second per megaparsec. But when they measure the local modern universe using recent stellar data, they get a distinctly different value, 74. This discrepancy has reached a 5 sigma level of certainty. The math is correct, and the instruments are functioning perfectly. This conflict reveals that we live in a dual caustic universe. The early and late cosmic probes are not making mistakes. They are sampling two distinct physical regimes that exist concurrently. To resolve this crisis, we have to look past the isolated measurements and decode the underlying universal operating system that governs both of these regimes at the exact same time. Modeling a system that behaves differently at its extremes while maintaining a single continuous flow requires a cubic function. This specific equation, y of t equals ax cubed plus bx squared plus cx plus d, provides the minimal architecture needed to host these dual physical regimes. The first two terms of the equation, the cubic and quadratic, represent the shadow domain. They govern the mechanics of classical physics, gravitational mass, the accumulation of entropy, and the deterministic chain of cause and effect. The linear term represents the light domain. This is the regime of quantum coherence, non-local order, and the unseen wave potential that early universe probes are actually sampling. In this framework, the shadow terms total 10, and the light term totals 9. Their sum creates a fixed value for d of 19. This acts as a topological lock, ensuring that energy is conserved and returned as it cycles between these two fields. By treating the universe as a closed, 19-locked system, we can begin to link cosmic expansion directly to biological rhythms and the physical properties of human consciousness. This Venn diagram illustrates the 2-3-7 framework, the mechanical engine driving the cubic equation through the interaction of light and shadow. The process begins when the system is split into two. An initial bifurcation creating the dual fields cosmology struggles to reconcile. The 3 marks the formation of mass at the intersection. This is where wave potential collapses into physical existence through the act of observation. The 7 provides system closure. It gathers the surplus energy of the cycle and feeds it back into the start, creating a self-regenerating loop of information. In any system defined by a mathematical interaction between two fields, there must be a measurement interface, a variable x where the exchange actually occurs. Because we are the only entities capable of observing and recording these exchanges, the human observer functions as the specific buffer variable. Our biological presence on Earth is the physical stage where the quantum wave state and the classical particle state compute their interactions. This graph maps the conflicting data of the Hubble tension onto the cubic equation. On the left is the early universe measurement of 67. On the right, the local measurement of 74. Probes measuring the cosmic microwave background are sampling the pure, coherent light field, represented by the linear 9 term. This measurement reflects the universe's background potential before it was obscured by structured matter. Local instruments like the James Webb Space Telescope are measuring a far more complex environment. These tools sample a reality dominated by the 10-term shadow field, where the presence of mass and the accumulation of entropy accelerate local expansion rates. This proves the Hubble tension is a result of inference asymmetry. We are looking at one universe through two different field filters. The discrepancy disappears when you include the biological scale of the observer as a variable in the equation. To define that biological scale and understand its true impact on these cosmic anomalies, we have to look deep inside the human observer. This medical EKG waveform reveals a specific decoherence equation. Every dynamical system requires a temporal boundary, a reset point, where it distinguishes between past and future information. For the human heart, that boundary is tau, a value of exactly 0.83 seconds. This is the interval space between the peaks of our rhythmic electrical beats. That 0.83-second interval defines the resolution of human measurement. It is the time scale on which we integrate external signals into internal awareness. Between every contraction lies the second zero. It is a moment of absolute electrical silence. During this pause, the human measurement of the universe resets. It is the specific window where the quantum wave state collapses into a classical physical decision. The human heart acts as the physical buffer layer, mechanically executing the 237 engine at a rate of 0.83 seconds per cycle. The structural logic of this operating system is also embedded within ancient manuscripts. This chainmail network graph shows that these texts are not simple collections of verse. They are topological maps of information. Prophetic names, Ibrāhīm, Mūsā, Yunus, represent specific labeled coordinates on this map. These names describe operational states of consciousness. They represent precise wave-particle phase shifts that the human observer can access through the resonance of their own reason. Blind faith is irrelevant here. These states require rigorous observation and intellectual clarity to be accessed. In this system, true faith is simply the computed, verified output of processed knowledge. The Yunus phase state is the final stress test of the human buffer. This coordinate marks an environment of maximum darkness. All external wave potential has decohered into a total vacuum of information. When external light is entirely absent, standard human reason has no data to process. You cannot observe an exit path from a state of total darkness. To survive, the observer must utilize tasbih, the act of internal alignment. This is the biological generation of a coherent signal from within the center of the buffer. This internally generated field forces the cubic equation to reconfigure, which restores geometric order out of the chaos. By understanding the operating system, the conscious observer gains the power to actively rewrite their own phase state. When we align these different scales onto a unified dashboard, the machine is revealed. The expansion of the cosmos and the biology of the observer are synchronized. Because the observer's 0.83-second heart rate defines the timescale of their measurements, the cosmic anomalies they record are locked to that same temporal rhythm. The human observer who actively oscillates through this buffer serves as the fourth turn required to resolve the cubic equation. This final resolution leads to coordinate 3846, the remembrance of the home. The ultimate function of the equation is the return of all energy and information. All measurements converge into a single point of unified light. Science measures the pattern, scripture names the pattern, but the conscious human heart executes the equation.